What is up, guys? Garrett Crawford from Noble Graphic Gaming. We're about to do another deck profile. This time we're going to do Atraxa Praetor's Voice Super Friends Edition. So let's get into the deck tech. Alright guys, so before I got into the Planeswalkers right off the bat, I wanted to go into like the support system of this deck because it's kind of crucial and it makes sense to what you're trying to do for the deck. So, let's get right into it. Atraxa Praetor's Voice is basically everything but red. It has Flying, Vigilance, Death, Touch, and Lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step you can proliferate, which means you can choose any number of permanents and or players with counters on them, then give them another counter of a kind they already have. So, this is going to be utilized for your Planeswalker abilities. So starting off with the artifacts, we have 2 mana rocks. We have Soul Ring and Arcane Signet. Pretty just staple cards for Commander. Then we have Contagion Clasp. This is a good way to get rid of a creature over time with Proliferate, and a lot of the other cards in your deck are going to proliferate for you. So this could kind of be a really cool way to get rid of some pesky creatures that are bugging you on the board. Coalition Relic puts charge counters onto the deck. Basically makes, or not onto the deck, onto the card. You can tap it for mana, you can tap it to put another charge counter, and at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you can just remove all the charge counters on it and add mana to your mana pool. For each charge counter removed this way, so in tandem with all the proliferate abilities and everything like that, this card can produce quite a bit of mana. Thran Temporal Gateway is a really good card to basically put your historic spells onto the field, so your artifacts, legendaries, and your sagas. There's no sagas in this deck, but there is legendaries and artifacts, so we're going to utilize that. After that, we got Niv Disc. Niv Disc is really just a good way to remove stuff on your opponent's turn. You can do some really tricky things with this. It's a really pesky removal spell. And then the last artifact is going to be the Chain Veil, just because it can make it to where we can utilize more triggers of our loyalty abilities of our Planeswalkers. There is a downside if you don't play, if you don't use a loyalty ability of a Planeswalker, you lose 2 life. But in most cases, that's never going to happen. After the artifacts, we have our enchantments. So our first enchantment is going to be Oath of Nissa. When she ETBs, she can basically pick a creature, land, or planeswalker off the top of the deck, and then you can actually use her to mana fix your lands to cast your planeswalker spell. So basically, your Chromatic Lantern. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Jeez, whoa. Yeah, Chromatic Lantern. So basically, it can Chromatic Lantern for your planeswalkers. Oath of Ajani is a really good card to drop the cost of your planeswalkers. Obviate is a really good card to phase out. Maybe a planeswalker you want to keep alive, or maybe use it on a pesky opponent's creature or something of the sort. Smothering Type is a good way to utilize your opponent's drawing to make treasure tokens. And Doubling Season is probably the most busted card in this deck because it makes it to where all of your planeswalkers enter with double the amount of loyalty counters that they already had on them. And then the last enchantment is going to be Oath of Teferi. He basically makes it to where when you activate your planeswalker abilities, you essentially activate them twice. So great card. And on to the instance of sorceries, or rather creature spells. We have Noble Hierarch. Good mana fixer and has Exalted, so really good card with that. We then have Winding Constrictor. Super good card because it can basically put more counters of whatever counter we're trying to put on our permanent. So it basically adds an extra 1. So if we +2, it makes it to where it's +3. Then we have Flux Channeler. Flux Channeler is a really good card to proliferate while you're casting your non-creature spells, such as your Planeswalkers. We have Evolution Stage, another great card. When a land ETBs, which is going to happen a lot in this deck, you get to proliferate. Crystalline Crawler, super good card. Enters the battlefield. It has Converge, so say you do hit all 4 of your colors into this thing, it comes in with +4, or sorry, it comes in with 4 +1/+1 counters, and then you can remove those counters to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Put a +1/+1 counter on Crystalline Crawler if you tap him. So really good card in that aspect. Just can do so many things. Since you're already proliferating, you can add tons of mana off of this thing. It's really out of hand. Karth the Lion is another really good way to increase the additional +1s of your loyalty abilities, and he can also dig up planeswalkers for you. Shalai is a soft coat over your entire deck and yourself because it gives you hexproof planeswalkers and creatures, and then she can also buff the board with +1/+1 counters. Arena Rector, you want this thing to just die because it literally just gives you a planeswalker and you slap it onto the battlefield. So yeah, have fun. Deep Glow Skate. This card is super bananas. Yes, I said super bananas because when it enters the battlefield, it doubles the number of each kind of counter on a number of target permanents. So you can just double all the loyalty counters of your planeswalkers and potentially just ult all of them back turn. So that's it for the creature spells. Let's get on to the instants and sorceries. Alright, now for the instants and sorceries, we have Opt. That's our only mono blue spell. Just a good draw one, scry one, why not? We got Farseek, Nature's Lore, Gaia's Blessing, also really good in case you're playing against Mill. Explore, Rampart Growth, Far Wanderings, Search for Tomorrow, and that's basically our mana ramp package. Then we have removal with Path to Exile, Wrath of God, Despark, Mortify, and Putrefy. And then we have some support cards to kind of help us dig for our planeswalkers that we want. We have Board the Weatherlight. Can just dig, look at the top 5, dig for a planeswalker. Call of the Gatewatch is basically a Sarkhan's Triumph, and you just dig up a planeswalker. Ignite the Beacon digs you up 2 planeswalkers. Deploy the Gatewatch looks at the top 7, then you grab up to 2 planeswalkers and put them onto the battlefield. Super crazy card. Costly Plunder is amazing because it can just sack an artifact and you draw 2 cards. So if you're getting tokens off of Smothering Tithe, this thing comes in handy. Growth Spiral, again, you want to ramp. And then Eerie Ultimatum is a really cool way to just make your opponent choose what threat they want to deal with. So really good cards for the support package of this deck. Let's move on to the actual core, which is the Planeswalkers. Alright, and for our Planeswalkers, starting out, we have some big names here. We have Jace Beleren. He has +2, each player draws a card, -1, target player draws a card, -10, target player puts the top 20 cards of his or her library to the graveyard. Narset has a -2, and she can also make it to where your opponents can't draw more than 1 card each turn. So her -2 basically digs you up any non-creature spell, and then that's most of the time going to be planeswalkers or support cards. Teferi is amazing because he basically turns off Flash. He makes it to where there's no instances played, so it kind of slows down the board state, and then he can make it until he can make it to where he can cast sorceries as though they had Flash. Dakon is actually super crazy in this deck because when he enters the battlefield, he's going to get loyalty counters equal to the number of lands that you have on the battlefield. So, for instance, if you're playing green, which luckily we are, this guy can come in with a ton. On top of that, Doubling Season will just make him huge. His -6 is a big thing here, so you may put an artifact card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield if you -6. In most cases, that's going to grab you Chain Veil or anything else that you just want to put out there. The +2 or the +1 versus Veil is great, and then the -3 exile target creature is amazing as well. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Do I really need to say much about this card? It's amazing. You can brainstorm. You can look at the top card of your player's library, and you may put that card on the top or on the bottom of the player's library. You can, like I said, brainstorm. You can return target creature to its opponent's hand, and then you can -12 and exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library, and yeah, here you go. So, crazy card. Garruk Wildspeaker can just buff the entire board, give them all +3/+3 and trample. He can also untap lands. He can also make you beast tokens. Amazing. Ajani, putting +1/+1 counters on everybody. Planeswalkers, creatures, who cares? He's doing it. Teferi, Master of Time, he can use his abilities during your opponent's turn. So imagine in a commander game, there's 4 turns. You're going to draw 4 cards, discard 4 cards in the time, and it gets you back to your turn again. So amazing, amazing card. He can also give you 2 extra turns, and in some cases, this can get to a crazy point where you're going infinite. Tezzeret the Schemer is a great way to put treasure tokens onto the field. They're Ethereum cells, though. And then target creature can get plus X or minus X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control. But what you're really looking at is his -7. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, target artifact you control becomes an artifact with base power and toughness 5/5. You can just turn anything into that. Treasure token, Ethereum token, whatever you want to do. Tamiyo is a good way to keep you from getting sacked by your opponent's cards. So you can't sacrifice or discard cards, so it's amazing in that regard. And then you can +1 and potentially rip a card off the top, or you can -3 and grab something from your graveyard and put it back into your hand. The Wanderer is a really good way to prevent all non-combat damage, so like red decks, and then it can just get rid of creatures, so good spot removal. Kiora is a really good way to ramp, really good way to kind of fix colors or activate certain abilities twice. And then her -5 is pretty amazing as well with the Krakens. You can just make that really get out of hand. Narset is amazing because you can use the +1 and basically add the top card to your hand, or you can -2 and give a card rebound when you cast it. And then her -9, you get an emblem with your opponent can't cast non-creature spells. Yeah, just turn you off. You can't do it. No more. Tamiyo Field Researcher, that -7. Draw 3 cards, you get an emblem, you may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana costs. So this basically can turn into a Omniscience, and that's really good. Tamiyo is a big shining star in this deck. As you can tell, the next card is her as well. We have Tamiyo the Moon Sage. We have Tamiyo Completed Sage. There's tons of her in this deck. We then have Kaya the Inexorable. We have Elspeth Tyrell, Obnixilis Reignited, Vraska the Unseen, Venser. Venser's amazing because the emblem, I know I'm saying amazing a lot, but the emblem is really good because whenever you cast a spell, you exile target permanent. That can just clear out boards. I always have a problem pronouncing Tevesh Zat, I want to say. Elspeth, Sun's Champion, that -7 is ridiculous. You also can just buff the board. You can destroy the board. It doesn't matter. Teferi, Temporal Archmage. Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. And Big Daddy Karn. Yeah, this guy can also reset the board just instantly when he ETBs if you have the right board set up. So yeah, let's get onto the lands real quick. Okay guys, so the land base, I always tell you guys to just do whatever you can manage. Don't worry about pricings on stuff. Like, just play whatever you can play. Like, please. Do not go out here and just try and spend a bunch of money and play an elite tier deck. Just use what you use what you have, okay? And then if you want to make upgrades because you notice that the upgrades will be nice, do that. But we have 3 Swamp, 3 Plains, 3 Forest, 3 Islands for all the basics. We have Commander Beacon, Command Tower, Interplanetary Beacon, which is really nice because when you cast your Planeswalker spells, it'll actually gain you a life. We have Thriving Moor and Thriving Grove. Temple of the False Gods is a really good ramp card, especially because getting to 5 is really easy. We have Nesting Grounds, Karn's Bastion, which also proliferates for you, amazing card. Then we have some dual lands. We have Henge Gate Pathway, Prairie Stream, Flooded Strand, Deserted Beach, Darkboard Pathway, Marsh Flats, Arid Mesa. I know this is kind of weird because it has red, but you can actually use this and pick up white stuff. So that's going to be like your Scattered Groves, Canopy Vista, Temple Garden, or Endatha Triumph. So yeah, guys, that is the deck. We are looking at a bill of $560 if you wanted to play this deck exactly for what it is right now. Everything that I showed you. Again, you do not have to play that kind of pay that much. You can definitely play this deck at way more of a budget if you want to. You just kind of got to look around for that. The big pieces in here are like the Doubling Season, some of the choice Planeswalkers, and what kind of rarities they're in. It could also be a big factor to the price. So I would say if you really wanted to go budget with this deck, you could at least get this deck for closer to like $300. if you really wanted to just really go cheapo, or maybe make some different options for you in this deck. So always keep that in mind, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Remember, keep in touch. We have tons of other things here on Noble Rabbit Gaming. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It also helps out with the algorithm if you guys are liking and commenting. I really do appreciate your guys' opinions on these decks. So please drop those down below. On top of that, have a nice day.